A link on your website is a clickable element that either sends the user to another location or triggers some sort of action. Clickable elements are often called calls to action on the web because they're meant to encourage the user to take action in some way. Let's explore creating links on a Muse site and using states and buttons in your design. So on my existing website, I have a very simple navigation system set up. There's a couple ways to do navigation systems in Muse, and some of them actually automatically pull in the page names you've used in the plan view of Muse. But for now, I'm creating a manual one where I have text boxes and I'm going to link them up to the pages I've created. To add a hyperlink to an element in Muse, what I'm going to do first is highlight the text. Then if you look here in the top right corner, it says hyperlinks and there's a drop-down menu. If I bring up that drop-down menu, it shows us a list of all of the pages we've created throughout the site on the plan view. Remember back in the plan view where we do our high-level overview of all the pages? You can see 4 listed here. Well, in that hyperlinks drop-down, we see all of those pages. So I want to link this about text up to the about page, like that. Done. Now that I've done that, you'll see that the hyperlink seems to have changed to this blue color. And this is the default styling on a hyperlink. We can change this yet again by going up to the hyperlinks kind of link or drop down here. Then we have some styling options. It says edit link styles. And if I click on that, then I can add some styles for the normal and the hover state. A hover state is when the mouse is hovering over it. So let's change the normal color to black, just like that. And we'll make the hover state, I don't know, some sort of orange like that. And click OK. So now that we have this linked up, let me preview this in the browser. And notice that it has a line under it for a link, and when I mouse over it, it changes to orange, and that's indicating it's going to that other page. If I click this link, it's going to open up the About page. However, it's a blank page and there's nothing on it, so I won't bother. Let's jump back to Muse and talk a little bit more about links. Another option that you need to be aware of when you create a link, and it's in this hyperlinks dropdown, is it says open the link in a new window or tab. And if I click that, it opens in a whole new browser tab. Whereas if it's not selected, it's going to open this in the same tab. So if you have a link that's going to an external site and it's going to take users off your website, it's always best to have that open in a new window or tab so that they retain their place on your current site. So that's a quick overview of how to link up text. Now, linking up images is the same exact way. You select the image itself, then you have the hyperlinks panel up here in the top. You select which page you want it to go to, and that's all. You can also enter an email address in for a link if you want to link up an address to open your mail client and pre-populate the email address. So you would just type in here, steve@MuseThemes.com, and hit enter, and Muse takes care of the rest. So that's how you add an email address to a hyperlink. Now let's talk a little bit about how to make buttons on a Muse site. There's a couple different ways. One of the easiest ways is to create a rectangle, something like this. And I'm going to add a fill to that rectangle. We'll say black. And then you would link up the rectangle. So as I just showed you, we would click on it, go up to our hyperlinks panel and enter a link. Then what we need to do is add states. And remember, states are what happens when the user rolls their mouse over this or hovers over it. To add a state, what we can do is select the element. And then up here in the top left, it says rectangle normal. If we click on normal, we can select the rollover state, the mouse down state, so when the button is actively being pressed, and the active state, which means when a link is actually the current window you're on. So if you have a hyperlink that says contact and goes to the contact page, when you're on the contact page, this is the state that's going to appear on that link. So we could just select rollover, and then we can change the fill color on that, and notice it changes. But the second I click off of that, it shows us what the normal state of this button is. And now in the drop down, you can see that the rollover state is gray. So that's how you'd create a very, very simple button in Muse. Now there's a better way to create a button, and let me delete that out. And that's up here in our widget library, something we're going to cover in a later video. There's a button included with Muse called a state button. And when I drag that out onto the page, it gives us a sample button. Now the great thing about state buttons is it unifies all of those rollover states between different elements within this button. So if you have a text block and an icon in your button and you want to have different rollover states for all of them, the state button is going to kind of group those all together and make sure if the user hovers over any element on this button that they're all going to change to their rollover state. I won't cover state buttons anymore in this series, however, we do have a video that explains them in depth on our website. Remember to pay special attention to your states and styles for your links. You want them to stand out and ensure that users know they represent an important action on your website.